Farmers voted overwhelmingly for Trump, especially in my home state is no exception, Nebraska. We notice. It is noted already that many 24/7 packing plants and large-scale bakeries, commercial bakeries, already do not have workers showing up because of the ice raids. There is produce rotting on the vine across California, and in the springtime when planting season starts, and then harvest time in the fall, it's going to get wild.
President Trump's promise of mass deportations have sent fears to the Central Valley, where migrant farm workers aren't showing up to work. The California Farm Bureau says the industry's taken a hit after immigration agents conducted several operations in Kern County last week. And workers not showing up to work may lead to higher food prices. Here's why.
They're not going to show up for work, and that means crops will remain in the field and not be harvested and probably lost at that point.
What percentage of your workers are not U.S. born?
Probably half.
About half?
Yeah.
How many hours does this go on?
It's 24 hours a day. You know, we could milk 8 hours a day, but it wouldn't be feasible or profitable for us to produce milk.
So you need workers like this year-round?
Yes, yes.
Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota, her farm is just a few miles away. This farmer who voted for her, who voted for Trump, who still supports them, doesn't believe that they would round up immigrants and ask them for their immigration status, because it's an open secret that farms in this state are held up by undocumented workers. Are you worried, like some of your other farmers, that if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants, that you might lose workers, you might not have enough workers?
Well, the question I asked, how are they going to do that? Within 2 days, we will not have food. There will not be food anywhere.
2 days?
Yes. That's why I predict nobody will be filling the shelves, nobody will be producing food. If we once have to shut down and be gone, it's never coming back.
Okay, so I want to talk about what's going on in the country. I have been watching what's been happening ever since the Trump administration came into office, ever since Trump was elected president of the United States. There's been a lot of things going on, a lot of activities, a lot of executive orders that has been impacting the lives of many people. And I've been watching this closely before speaking on it. We're seeing quite a few things going on in the country as it relates to social issues, the political dynamics. And his executive order has really sparked a lot of conversations. The most notable ones, right, with one being at the height of the ticket, is immigration. So mass deportation is going on right now, which is what I want to spend my time on. And I want to talk about how a lot of what we're seeing as a result of the executive orders that he signed, mass deportation being one, federal freezing of federal funds, the rolling back of social programs and a whole bunch of stuff like DEI, has caused quite a lot of stir. But the one I want to focus on is immigration, because that is the most touchy one. That is the one that everyone is focused on right now. That is the one that's exciting some and really offending a lot of people. Yeah, you heard me right. It's offending a lot of people. Now, I know on the news, there are people who, what they are showing you on the news will give you the impression that a lot of people are happy about this. Now, when I mean a lot of people are offended by this, I'm not talking about the average people like you and me. I'm not talking about us. Yes, that too. Corporations are highly offended by this. They're going to be highly impacted. Because what he's doing is a direct opposite of what he campaigned on, which is that he's going to fix the economy. How's he going to do it? With this mass deportation that he's got going on right now, which is going to inevitably affect the way of lives, cost of living of average and daily Americans. So how's that going to work? That's the, let's have a logical conversation about this. Take the emotion out of this. Because what he's doing right now, I can tell you, is dog and pony show. It is to appease a base. They'll have this thing go on for a couple of months, maybe the first quarter of the year. And even that is going to be huge impact. And I'm going to tell you the implication that that will have. But they're not about to have this for the entire year. So it's not sustainable. We're already seeing corporations affected by this. It's going to affect you and I. You see, what he inherited, the Trump administration, he inherited a great economy from the Biden administration. Now, yes, I'm not here to discuss the Biden administration. I was not a big fan of the Biden administration, so that's not the point here. But under the Biden administration, inflation, which was as a result of COVID, came down. So he inherited that. What he's doing right now with this whole mass layoffs and deporting people, right? If he continues that, he's about to skyrocket inflation again. Because most of us in the United States enjoy the cost of goods being low because of migrants and immigration in this country. Your Walmart, your CVS, your grocery store, your HEBs, these department stores depend on illegal immigrants to be able to bring food on the table. The farmers, where do you think those produce are coming from? Where do you think your tomatoes, your eggs, your milk, your dairy products, your vegetables, where do you think they're coming from? You think they're coming from the labor of Americans who are working at $2 an hour, pennies on the dollar, so you can buy it cheap at a grocery store? No. You think they're coming from labor who are being paid fair wages, so you can go to the store and buy it at a cheap rate? No. They're coming from the same migrants, right, who are putting food on our tables, the ones that he's deporting. So how long do you think he's going to do this before the big corporations, the ones that funded his campaign, the ones that he relies on to improve employment in the country? How long do you think he's going to do that until they start hauling him and say, hey, Mr. President, you need to cut that off, if they haven't already started doing that? There are reports now that ICE agents are not going to the farmland. They're not going over there. You see, the stuff you're seeing on the news with ICE agents, again, this is why I call it the dog and pony show. You're seeing ICE agents going to apartment buildings, going to schools, going to job, restaurant, and picking people out. Why don't they go to the farmlands? Because that would be easy for me. If I was an ICE agent and I really want to crack down on this immigration thing, I mean, everyone in America knows this. Everyone in America knows that the ones picking our crops, the ones that are bringing food on our table, that are making life, our manufacturing sectors, our agricultural sector, everyone knows, it's not secret, right, that the ones doing this job are non-Americans and they're illegals in this country. It would make more sense, in my opinion, that the ICE agent would just go to any farm in Texas, Wyoming, Kentucky, any one of those places. Go to the farmlands and just post out there. You can grab 2,000 people in an hour. You can grab them and bust them up. These whole reports that they caught 500 people in one day, and since the Trump administration came into office, which is now going on 2 weeks since he's got in there, they've only arrested 17, and they think that 1,700 people is an impressive number. No, it's not, because you can get that in one day, just from one farm. Imagine all the rest of them. But no, the ICE agents are not going there. You got farm owners who are mostly white people who supply these products that we eat to the big department stores and the big grocery stores, the ones that we benefit from. You have them calling ICE agents and say, hey, is my farm targeted for your raid? And they're telling them, no, you're not on my list. Imagine that. So they're not on the list. So why are they not on the list? Huh? So you've got this scare from people in Texas, Mexican immigrants, migrants in Texas, who don't want to show up to work. And that's already impacted him. It's going to have a major implication, which is going to go directly against what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to make America great. That's what he ran on, right? But even he is not an idiot. How are you going to make America great when you're causing inflation and hardship to average Americans whom you campaign to make life easy? How's that going to work? It's economic 101. So you've got in Texas, Greg Abbott, he's got a situation in his hands. Because you have mass deportation impacts agriculture in Texas. Everyone is nervous. U.S. farmers gather in San Antonio ahead of mass deportation. They're not coming back to work. They're not showing up to work because they're nervous about this. See, the people that we relied on to feed us during COVID are the ones now that we're sending out of the country. The people that we relied on when all of us were at home, we weren't working, are the ones that we're all happy that they're kicking them out of the country. So, okay, that's great. You're happy. Now, you're going to have to go do those jobs. You are going to have to go do those jobs. And by the way, you best make sure that you're asking for your wage to be at $17 an hour, $18 an hour, $19, $20 an hour, because you're an American. And let's see how far the owner of the farm pays you that. And even if they pay you that because, they pay you, you're an American and you deserve this wage, let's see how that is about to impact or not impact the cost of goods that you and I pay for. See, I don't understand why people are excited about this, because, Trump, what he's doing, even he knows it. That's why I call it a dog and pony show. He's going to do this for just to appease campaign promise. And he's going to tell us, stop. What you're seeing is that a lot of the people that they're grabbing, they're not putting them on the planes. See, the few ones you've seen on the planes are just it's just a showmanship. They just got to show something, right? But the vast majority of the people they're grabbing, the Mexicans and the ones from Venezuela, they're working on the farmland. They put them in some camp somewhere, detention camp, and they're going to release them. They're going to do the same thing the Obama administration, the Biden administration did. The catch and release that he said he's against. He's going to do the same thing. Because he's going to find out what they've all known. And what he knows is that the American system is built on immigration. Capitalism is built on illegal immigrants. Cheap labor. Yes, I said it. Someone's got to say it. The capitalism in this country is built on the backs of cheap labor. That's how capitalism works. Your life that you're bragging about today, the life that you brag about, to go to the grocery store, right? To be able to live and buy food, use $100 and buy a whole lot of food. The only reason why that's possible is because of cheap labor. Not cheap labor in terms of, someone's getting paid $10 an hour. I'm talking about exploitation of labor, where people are getting paid $2 an hour. The stuff that you would not live off of. The stuff that we tell people in Africa. How are you able to survive on that? Because that's the only way it works. It's economic 101. So when he deports all of these people, which I'm telling you, the few ones that have stopped coming to work as a result of this, the ones that their white farmers are calling them and say, hey, don't come back to work. Don't worry about it. I already called the ICE agents. They're not coming to this place. Don't worry. And the guys are scared. They're scared. The ones that they've used to put food on our tables, they're going to have them back to work. Because the American system is built in that. What is it that he thinks he knows that previous presidents don't? You see, I said that the US economy is built on the backs of immigration. It's built on the back of it. They know this. The way this country was founded from the inception of this country, it has always been on cheap labor. This country, as well as the other white countries, slavery. And after slavery was done, they've always relied on cheap labor, the manufacturing sector. During the first industrial revolution, that was what built this economy, right? Because, again, the question is, what is he doing that's different from what the other previous presidents have done? He models after Reagan. Why didn't Reagan do this? Why didn't Reagan, who Trump models after? Every of his talking points, make America great, Reagan said it, President Reagan. That whole phrase was coined by President Reagan. It wasn't by Trump. American First Initiative and Agenda. Reagan was the one that put that. The whole thing is all borrowed from Reagan. Why didn't Reagan do a mass deportation? Because Reagan knows that the country relies on workers, right? Which is why the immigration system is broken. They need to fix it, but they know it's broken and they want it broken because that's the only way they benefit from this. That's where you benefit from this. So the stuff that he's poo-pooing on right now, right, is a long tradition that started all the way back in the 1800s. It became a huge, big boom for the United States under Lyndon Johnson. See, the stuff that the reason why you, me, and many immigrants are in this country today is because of an immigration act that was signed in 1965 by Lyndon B. Johnson. You see, I know a lot of Black Americans and African Americans like to beat their chests and say, oh, we fought for the rights of everyone to come to this country. No, they did not. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 that was passed was for Black Americans to be treated equally in their own country. It wasn't for you. They didn't fight for your right to come in here. It was for African Americans to be treated as human beings, to be given fair opportunity in their own country. The one thing that gave you and I, the one legislature that was passed, that helped you, me, and many other immigrants come to this country, was the Immigration Act of 1965 that was passed by Lyndon B. Johnson. The Immigration of 1965 ended the discrimination against people from Africa, Asia, through the national origin quota system that was passed back in 1920s in this country that favored a lot of Europeans. So a lot of Europeans where Trump's family came from. Right? He came from an immigrant family. Right? That whole quota system that was in place since 1920 that was discriminating against people like you and me from coming to this country. Lyndon B. Johnson passed an immigration act that killed all of that because he realized that they can build on the American economy if they use foreign workers, foreign skilled workers. So that when that was passed, it opened up the floodgates for people from different countries. This country saw a boom of people coming to this country. That's when the Africans started coming up here. Asians started coming up here because that also killed the Chinese Exclusion Act that was in place in this country for over 10 years in the 1800s. It increased Asians, Chinese, Indians to come to this country. That is this one single legislation that was passed that really benefited. It was an all-white Congress that passed this because they saw that the economy could benefit from skilled workers, just like it benefited during slavery. And so they opened up their borders to bring people into this country. It was a great thing, and the U.S. economy thrived. Now it is broken because their borders is not secured, right? So that needs to be fixed, but they know this. They know the borders needs to be fixed, but they also didn't want to fix it. All of the previous presidents exploited that whole thing. Because if they let migrants come in here, illegal ones, whom they know their identities and they know where they are. Why do you think that they know where to go grab them and put them and pick them up from? They know everyone. But they use them to their own advantage to keep food on the table so they can enjoy the America that everyone is proud of today, which is like you come to America and it's a way of life. Who do you think is building that? The houses that we live in. Construction. Who do you think is building that? Do you see any of these guys that are all excited about all that? Do you see them building houses? No. Right? We have shortage of home today. There's home shortage. People can't afford homes because the price of homes have gone up and they've stayed up since COVID happened. And there are over 1 million shortage of homes in the country, which is a huge problem. And so you have a president who is talking about mass deportation, deporting the people that are not only on the farmland, but people that are constructing the homes. They need to build more homes. So when you send them out of the country, who is going to do the job? No, please, let's talk about this. Because you're having people who have no understanding of how the economy works. All excited. Because guess what? Guess who's going to be more affected by this whole thing? Minorities and black people. Because when the cost of goods go up, who will not be able to afford it? You can't afford it today. So you're getting excited. And then guess who's going to be affected also in terms of profit and shares? The rich folks. Because when your stock price starts to plummet, guess what's going to happen? You guessed it. The corporations are going to go to the same president, the one that right now who's enjoying all the fame and glory. They'll be like, you need to kill all that. So he knows this. The Trump administration knows this. So why is he doing it? Why is he doing it? Again, is to appease a campaign promise. This is going to go on for, I would put it, we're going to see it in the news February. By March, this whole thing is going to be done. Because March is going to start getting warm, right? Right? It's going to start getting warm. Right now it's cold, so they can pull this whole charade in the winter and make it look like, oh, they're doing something. When it starts to get warm out there, when the farmers need to go out there and the labor needs to go and start begin to cultivate and crop and work on the farm lawn, who's going to be there? Because the so-called Americans are not going to do that job, not at $2 an hour. They'll do it at $20 an hour. But who's about to pay that? Okay, and the subsidies, because what he's doing, this is a strategy. Because he's going to do this little dog and pony show, right? Because he's promised those farmers, right, subsidies. So he's going to subsidize them. But how long is he going to subsidize those farmers? At the backs of taxpayers. How long do you think that's going to sustain? You think it's going to sustain for 6 months? You think those farm subsidies are just going to sustain for 6 months at the taxpayers' back? Okay. So here's why this is very upsetting. On top of what I just said, because he's about to increase the cost of living for me and you if he continues this stuff that he's doing. So that's upsetting already. And you're going to start to see people, the same ones that are hailing him right now, they're going to start going up like, hold on, kill this nonsense. Because you start to feel it at the pump, feeling on your table, start to see that your cost of homes are still good. You can't afford it today, but who's going to do it, right? Okay. So on top of all of that, here's what's even more upsetting. Is that a man who came from immigrants, right? Whose wife, by the way, is an immigrant. She broke the law in this country. The first lady of the United States, the one that's married to the man who's carrying out all this stuff, right? She came into this country on a tourist visa and worked illegally in this country. That's breaking the law. So the first lady of the United States, this is why this whole thing is upsetting. The first lady of the United States, her immigration record was she was working as a model, right? Illegally in this country. She wasn't allowed to work. She didn't have a work permit. She was a tourist in this country. So she gets to go out there and talk about this when she benefited from the broken immigration system in this country. His VP is married to an immigrant. I'm not saying she's an illegal immigrant, but he's married to an immigrant. This country benefited from immigrants. A lot of the people that are hooping and hollering and all of that stuff, their parents are migrants. Their parents are immigrants. So the children of immigrants are causing the deportation of their parents. Here's why this country is one of the greatest countries in the world, and I'll close. The reason why America is an exceptional country, which is why most people want to come here, is because while you might have people who do bad things and stand for horrible things, you have also the equal amount of people who stand for good and who are good people in this country. We're not going to let that happen. So now we're seeing judges, federal judges, block some of the stuff that he's talking about. Like he's so extreme with it that he is signing an executive order to change the Constitution of the United States. Birthright citizenship is a 14th Amendment. It's in the 14th Amendment. Trump cannot use executive order to change the Constitution. He knows this. Just like he cannot just deport 11 million undocumented workers in this country. He knows this. It's a showmanship. It's all a charade. It's all a charade to keep you talking about one thing while he's doing a magic trick here on the other thing. It's a magic show. Because the ones going to be affected by all of this, right, are the ones that are having a hard time living today. The ones who are struggling in society are going to be the one. So I knew this was a dog and pony show when I heard that he was going to cut taxes. Now, of course, you talk about cutting taxes. That's music to my ears, man. Yeah, I want you to cut taxes. I'm paying taxes. I don't want to pay as much taxes as I'm paying. It's music to my ears. But let's talk about it logically. His mandate is to build the economy and the way of life of the American people. That is the mandate in which he was put in there, any president. The country right now is $33 trillion in debt. Taxes are the way governments are funded. Governments in any country, most especially here in the United States, are funded based on taxes. Taxes is how the governments have treasury, money in reserve, your taxes. The reason why government can fund and do things is from income taxes, property taxes, right? There's already a huge debt. So he needs taxes to pay down the debt. You see how that works? So if you're gonna cut taxes, hey, trust me, hey, please cut all the taxes you want. I'm happy about that. It helps me. And I knew that this whole thing is all a show because Trump went to business school, as I did. So he knows that cutting taxes is not going to help to bring down the debt. So if you're cutting taxes, that means you're going to inflate the debt much more. So maybe that's his game plan. Maybe like, oh, forget it. I can't help anything. I can't do this I can't bring down this debt, so let me just add to it and raise the debt ceiling like many other ones. So he's going to raise the debt ceiling, right? But what do you think that's going to happen? What do you think the Federal Reserve, right? The Feds, you think they're all excited about him cutting taxes? What do you think the major players in the country are? You think they're all excited about him cutting taxes? We got to pay down these debts, which is going to have a cascading effect at the strength of the US dollar. You think they're excited about this? Please, people, let me help you understand this. This is why I've not talked about this. I want to just watching to see if anyone's going to cover this. Everyone is dancing to him. Everyone is afraid to speak. People are changing their value system. People are changing what their principles are because they are afraid to speak up and they're dancing to him. So these same folks are going to, if they're not already doing it, like, hold on a second, dude, you can't do that. So he's going to extend the Trump tax code, which is going to run out in the next couple of years. Probably going to extend that, cut taxes here and there, but mostly he's not going to cut the taxes like he's wanting to do because he needs taxes. He needs money to fund the government. He's already about to bankrupt this whole federal freeze where he's trying to buy out federal workers. That's already coming out from our taxes, right? From the reserve. So if he's cutting taxes, how's he going to put the money back there? So that, I'm like, listen, that already was enough for me to say this guy is just doing what he does best. It's a showmanship. So don't be distracted by what's going on because, like I said, this will go on. The whole immigration thing is going to go on for till February, and then they're going to have to kill it. I think the vast majority of those migrant workers, the ones that the companies use, major companies use, so that our lives and our way of lives, we can boast of those things that we boast of today and be able to afford life in this country. They're putting them somewhere, and then they're going to release them and say, "Go back in the field and go work." Because you and me ain't about to do all that, right? We're not going to do it. We're not going to do that job. If we could, they wouldn't have signed and put into law the Immigration Act of 1965. The previous presidents knew this, right? They wouldn't, all white Congress wouldn't have signed that into law. They would have fixed the immigration borders. They know this. What is it that he knows that other ones didn't know? You think that they didn't all try to do it? Lastly, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself because there's something coming down the pipeline if he continues with this stuff that's going to make life very, very difficult for average Americans. See, the stuff that he's talking about, he's not going to be able to boast of that a year into his administration if he continues the stuff he's doing. He's not. You're going to see inflation like you've never seen before. You're going to see the cost of goods go up like you've never seen before. You're going to see your way of life affected like you've never seen before. And you're going to remember that the president that did that to you, the same one who says he's going to make America great, American first, all yada, 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 you're going to remember that. And he's going to lose either the House or the Senate by the midterm election. I mark my word on this. While he's enjoying both House of Congress, he's going to lose one by the midterm election. And then you're going to realize that he may very well go down to be a mediocre president, not one of the best, as he's trying to do. He's going to go down as one of the mediocre presidents. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Like the video, share the content.
Nu vill jag kunna ge tillbaka allt jag inte kunnat ge förut. Det finns ingen annan där som kan stå här by my side, oh why. Sättet du rör på det får mig att dö för dig baby. För de här yardis, de vill ju bara dra ner oss. Men du är fett och vanlig. Och det jag lägger är min tid. Jag vill ha dig. Du får mig känna safety. Jag kan nog leda baby. Och jag kommer aldrig ändra mig.